Good evening. On behalf of the Catholic Theological Ethics in the World Church, I'd like to welcome everybody here to Sarajevo, to this wonderful high school, to the extraordinary hospitality you will receive here in Bosnia, and in particular from the church in Sarajevo. My name is Jim Keenan, and it's my pleasure to begin the ceremony by inviting Cardinal Vinko Puljic to give some words. But first, let me say something about Cardinal Vinko Puljic. He was born in 1946 in Banja Luka, the 12th of 13 children. In 1970, he was ordained a priest. In 1990, he was appointed Archbishop here in Vrbovna by Pope John Paul II. In 1994, in the middle of the siege of Sarajevo, he was made a cardinal. At 49, the youngest member of the College of Cardinals. When the Bosnian War broke out in 1992, he immediately became involved in helping the thousands of refugees and exiles. He frequently risked his life while making pastoral trips to his parishes, was imprisoned during one visit for 12 hours by the Serbian military forces. Pope John Paul II once said of him, or to him, "When I imposed hands on you to consecrate you in the office of pastor of the Church of Sarajevo, I had no idea that very shortly your cross would be so heavy and your cup so bitter." I had the privilege, I've been here now 6 times over the past 4 years, and on several occasions I've had the privilege to meet and dine with the Cardinal. And on one occasion, I asked him what it was like to be here in Sarajevo during those 3.5 years of the siege. It's important to appreciate that he was here every day during that siege, and that when others left, he remained here. And so I asked, what was it like during those 3.5 years? And he simply gave me 3 words: cold and dark. Cardinal Puljic.
Kao mjesni ordinari želim izraziti radost ovom skupu što se našao u Bosni i Hercegovini, u Sarajevu i u ovoj mjesnoj crkvi. Zato vas od srca sve zajedno i svakog osobno pozdravljam. Ekscelencije, monsinjore, gospodo profesore i sve druge sudionike. Zahvaljujem organizatorima da su bacili oko na nas, da nas ohrabre svojim prisustvom i snažnom porukom.
As a bishop of this diocese, I wish to express my deepest joy that this gathering is held here in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in Sarajevo. I heartily welcome you all, each and every person, Your Excellencies, Monsignors, Professors, and all the other participants. I thank the organizers for looking to us and for encouraging us with your presence and strong messages.
Tema graditi mostove mi je posebno simpatična i draga tema. Kroz svojih 27 godina biskupstva stalno sam graditelj tih mostova na području različitih kultura, religija i svjetonazora.
The main topic of this conference, Building Bridges, is a lovely theme that is particularly dear to me. In my 27 years as bishop, I have constantly worked as the building of bridges on various fields, on a cultural level, on a religious level, and on a worldview level.
Most je građevina napravljena da spoji dvije obale, prelaženjem prirodnih i umjetnih prepreka. Svrha mosta je prolaz ljudi i vozila. U graditeljstvu mostova postoji razni nazivi mostova, viseći mostovi, lučni mostovi, konzolni mostovi, ovješeni mostovi, pomični mostovi. Prema namjeni su pješački mostovi, cestovni mostovi, željeznički mostovi i kombinirani mostovi.
Bridges are constructed to connect two shores. They are built for crossing both natural and artificial obstacles. Bridges are intended to facilitate the passage of people and vehicles. There are bridges with different construction: hanging bridges, sport bridges, cantilevered bridges, suspended bridges, or movable bridges. And there are bridges with different purpose: inflatable bridges, road bridges, railway, and combined bridges.
Analogno ovoj slici uzimam sliku našega velikog pisca i Nobelovca Ive Andrića. Citiram: ništa nije vrijednije nego graditi mostove koji povezuju i spajaju. Ali da se most napravi, traži se druga obala, na što nasloniti gradnju mosta. Mnogi entuzijaste u želji da se dogodi povezivanje i spajanje različitosti zaborave da je važna i druga strana. Bez nje nema ni mosta, ni dijaloga. A kineska poslovica veli: život je samo most, ali ne gradi kuće na mostu. Naše stalno uporište je osoba Isusa Krista, koji je uporište izgradnje mostova među ljudima, narodima i kulturama.
As an analogy, I take the image of our great writer and Nobel Prize winner, Ivo Andrić, who wrote, "Nothing is more valuable than building bridges that connect and join. But in order to complete the bridge, you need the other shore. You need something you can lean on." Many enthusiasts, in their desire to connect and merge diverse parties, forget that the other side is important. Without it, there is neither bridge nor dialogue. One Chinese proverb says, "Life is just a bridge, but do not build a house on the bridge." Our true foundation is the person of Jesus Christ, the foundation of bridging between people, cultures, and everything else.
Zato vas pozdravljam i želim uspjeh u traženju našeg puta, izgradnje mostova u ovim vremenima i u ovom globalnom svijetu. Hvala lijepo.
Once again, I welcome you and wish you success in looking for our building bridges in our time and in this global world. Thank you all.
We've been working on this program now for almost a year, but strangely, the next speaker is not in the program. The next speaker is gracious enough to come here, and that's the Apostolic Nuncio, Luigi Pezzuto. And he's the one who bore us the letter of Pope Francis, so he'll be giving us his greetings and Pope Francis's. We received 3 days ago from his office a letter from the Vatican, from Pope Francis, and we picked it up, and then we said, who's reading it? And we said, Archbishop Luigi Pezzuto. So let me say a word about him. He was born in 1946 and ordained a priest in his native Italy in 1971, and later a bishop in 1997. In 1999, he was made nuncio to Tanzania. Then he became nuncio in 2005 to El Salvador, Belize, and Antilles. In 2012, he was named by Pope Benedict XVI nuncio to Bosnia-Herzegovina and Montenegro. And in 2016, he became also the nuncio to Monaco. He brings us his own greetings, but also Pope Francis's own greetings to us. Archbishop.
To the Third International Conference of Catholic Theological Ethics in the World Church, Sarajevo, 26-27 July 2018. Dear brothers and sisters, I greet all of you taking part in this your third worldwide conference on theological ethics. It takes place in Sarajevo, a city of great symbolic value for the journey of reconciliation and peacemaking after the horrors of a recent war that brought so much suffering to the people of that region. Sarajevo is a city of bridges. Your meeting is inspired by this dominant motive, which warns of the need to build in an environment of tension and division new paths of closeness between peoples, cultures, religions, visions of life, and political orientations. I have appreciated this effort of yours from the beginning, when the members of your planning committee visited me in the Vatican last March. The theme of your meeting is one to which I myself have often called attention: the need to build bridges, not walls. I keep repeating this in the lively hope that people everywhere will pay attention to this need that is increasingly acknowledged, albeit at times resisted by fear and forms of regression. Without renouncing prudence, we are called to recognize every sign and mobilize all our energy in order to remove the walls of division and to build bridges of fraternity everywhere in the world. The three focal points of your meeting intersect along this journey of bridge building in a critical time like our own. You have given a central place to the ecological challenge, since certain of its aspects can create grave imbalances, not only in terms of the relationship between man and nature, but also between generations and peoples. This challenge, as it emerges from the encyclical Laudato Si, is not simply one of many, but the broader backdrop for an understanding of both ecological ethics and social ethics. For this reason, your concern for the issue of migrants and refugees is very serious and provokes a metanoia that can foster ethical and theological reflection even before inspiring suitable pastoral attitudes and responsible and carefully planned political policies. In this complex and demanding scenario, there is a need of individuals and institutions capable of assuming a renewed leadership. There is no need, on the other hand, for hurling slogans that often remain empty, or for antagonism between parties jockeying for the front position. We require a leadership that can help to find and put into practice a more just way for all of us to live in this world and shares in a common destiny. With regard to the question of how theological ethics can make its own specific contribution, I find insightful your proposal to create a network between persons and the various continents who, with different modalities and expressions, can devote themselves to ethical reflection in a theological key, in an effort to find therein new and effective resources. With such resources, suitable analysis can be carried out, but more importantly, energies can be mobilized for a praxis that is compassionate and attentive to tragic human situations and concerned with accompanying them with merciful care. To create such a network, it is urgent, first, to build bridges among yourselves, to share ideas and programs, and to develop forms of closeness. Needless to say, this does not mean striving for uniformity of viewpoints, but rather seeking with sincerity and goodwill a convergence of purposes in dialogical openness and the discussion of differing perspectives. Here, you will find helpful a particular form of competence, all the more urgent and complex today, to which I referred in the foreword of the recent Apostolic Constitution Veritatis Gaudium. In mentioning the fundamental criteria for a renewal and relancing of ecclesiastical studies, I stressed the importance of wide-ranging dialogue, which can serve as the basis for that interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary openness so vital also for theology and for theological ethics. I also pointed to the urgent need for networking between those institutions worldwide that cultivate and promote ecclesiastical studies. I encourage you, as men and women working in the field of theological ethics, to be passionate for such dialogue and networking. This approach can inspire analysis that will be all the more insightful and attentive to the complexity of human reality. You yourself will learn ever better how to be faithful to the Word of God, which challenges us in history, and to show solidarity with the world which you are not called to judge, but rather to offer new paths, accompany journeys, bind hearts, and they shore up weakness. You already have over 10 years of experience in building such bridges in your association, Catholic Theological Ethics in the World Church. Your international meetings in Padua, 2006, and Trent, 2010, your regional meetings on different continents, and your various initiatives, publication, and teaching activities have taught you a style of sharing which I trust you will pursue in a way that will prove fruitful for the entire Church. I join you in thanking the officers who have come to the end of their term, and those now taking up their responsibilities. I will remember them in my prayers. To all of you, I cordially impart my blessing, and I ask you, please, to pray for me. From the Vatican, 11th of July, 2018, signed, Francis.
Three years ago, Antonio Otero and I were invited by Zorica Maros and by Darko Tomasevic to a series of lectures and conferences that would go for 3 years on issues of justice, reconciliation, and memory. And in that way, CTEWC became more and more connected to the seminary, to the Department of Theology at the university, and to a variety of different persons teaching and working here in Sarajevo. But in the evenings, we started hanging out with a group of people called the Youth for Peace. And so when we asked the Cardinal for his greetings, and we were asking the Pope for his greetings, we also decided to ask them. Now, on Saturday evening, Cardinal Vinko Puljic will be leading us, presiding at the liturgy with Cardinal Supic and others. But you'll also be meeting, again and again, the Youth for Peace. This is a wonderful organization, and I think it's going to become, for all of us, the face of Sarajevo, the familiar face, engaging face of Sarajevo. Youth for Peace was founded and is run by young people who are drawing strength from the desire for sustainable community in Bosnia and Herzegovina, while organizing different activities for young people and conveying to them through their own experience of dialogue and living together. And tomorrow late afternoon, they'll be presenting a good bit of the work that they do. But right now, greetings from Elma Beslic, educator at Youth for Peace organization, who, while pursuing a law degree, found purpose in the non-governmental sector building and helping local communities and disadvantaged youth, which allowed her to combine her passion for media, law, and the NGO sector. Elma.
Dear friends, first of all, what an honor and privilege it is to speak after Cardinal Mr. Puljic and Apostolic Nuncio Mr. Petuzio. Maybe this is the best example what position of youth should be in the societies around the world. As Mr. Kanan, our great friend, introduced, my name is Elma Bešlić, and I was given a privilege to welcome you all on behalf of Youth for Peace organization. We would like to welcome you to our city, Sarajevo, our beautiful, amazing city that we hope that will become your city during and after this conference. By education, I'm a law student. By work, I'm a finance and administrative officer. By choice, I'm an educator and volunteer. But by heart, I'm a human. Books and books are written about ethic and moral principles. But still, we are here, trying to fix and fixing things that we didn't broke. Youth for Peace is here to share unwritten stories, unwritten personal stories about loss, grief, growth, love, and fighting for a better future. And I ask myself, what is a better way to fight for better communities, for our community, than through the principles that are driven by personal experiences? Everyday ethicists, that's all of us, who are recognizing and trying to solve different ethical issues that comes up in our everyday lives. Hard work and education is needed, especially for children and young people. Youth for Peace is here to help shaping ethical community that will show upcoming generations that it's okay to question right and wrong, but that choosing a right way demands hard work. So, I really hope, and I hope that this great gathering will help us all fight together for the right values of love, peace, and living together. Once again, welcome to our beautiful city. We wish you a really successful and fruitful conference. Thank you.
I cannot tell you how wonderful it is for me to open this conference. 16 years ago, my Boston College colleague and friend, Steve Pope, was in Rome. At the same time, I was teaching at the Gregorian University. I offered to introduce him to some Roman moral theologians. I invited 2 from the Gregorian and 2 from the Alphonsianum. Rafe Gallagher, I think, was one of them, who's here tonight. Together with Steve and me, the 6 of us had a really great evening. These were 4 theologians working at 2 major Roman universities, only 1 kilometer away from each other. Each moralist had worked in Rome for at least a dozen years. Each had a well-earned reputation. At the end of the evening, each one thanked me for organizing the dinner. I asked, "How often do you get together?" "We have never met one another," they answered. There and then, in 2002, I decided we needed to get moral theologians together, at least for a meal. A few months later, I was approached by a major Catholic foundation asking if I would host a seminar of 12 major moral theologians who would meet once a year for 5 years and then publish a major collection of essays. I suggested instead a planning committee to meet for 3 years and then host an international conference that would publish its papers. They agreed. In 2003, I assembled an international planning committee and invited, among others, Margaret Farley, Suse Arakasami, Benazir Bhutto, Linda Hogan, and Paul Schatzman. We met for the first time as guests of Paul Schatzman at Leuven and developed our name, Catholic Theological Ethics in the World Church. We also articulated our mission statement where we wrote, Catholic Theological Ethics in the World Church recognizes the need to appreciate the challenge of pluralism, to dialogue from and beyond local culture, and to interconnect within a world church not dominated solely by a northern paradigm. Those phrases, dialogue beyond local culture, to interconnect within a world church, not dominated solely by a northern paradigm, became our guiding light. For that reason, we decided if the conference was to be truly international, we would need to raise funds to support those from the Global South. For a variety of reasons, we decided to host our first conference in Padua. Linda Hogan joined me as co-chair, along with a native of Padua, Renzo Pecoraro, who's here with us. On July 8, 2006, the Planning Committee hosted, for the first time in history, an international meeting of Catholic theological ethicists. 400 came together from 63 countries to Padua. Could I ask those who attended Padua to raise their hand? Thank you. We had one major rule. No presenter could speak for more than 15 minutes, a rule that we defend passionately at all our conferences, including this one. The major theme of the conference was listening to voices beyond our own local culture. The meeting was a great success. The plenary papers were published by 6 presses in New York, Bologna, Sao Paulo, Bangalore, Manila, and Buenos Aires. And Linda Hogan edited a volume of the Applied Ethics papers published in New York and Manila. We decided to meet again in 4 years. Renzo Pecoraro suggested Trento, the city of the major council where the field of theological ethics was first created, and that we recruit Antonio Otiero to help us host it there. Before we left Padua, however, because of interventions made by 3 African women theologians at the conference, Bernadette Mububeya, Philomena Maura, who was supposed to be here but broke her ankle 3 days ago. Yes, and Teresia Hinga, who is here with us tonight. Linda and I realized that they and we needed more women's voices from Africa, and that we should pursue funding for PhDs in theological ethics for women in Africa. Today, 5 of the 8 women who were selected and pursued those doctorates in Africa are attending this conference. Sadly, one of them, Margaret Ogola, who was a plenary speaker at Trento, died of breast cancer. We will be remembering her at the memorial service tomorrow. Trento in 2010 was even more successful with 600 participants from 72 countries. Like Renzo Pecoraro Antonio Otiedo, connected us to many local resources. The conference was designed to consider the past, the present, and the future. 4 major developments emerged from Trento. First, we developed a website, catholicethics.com. Second, we decided on a monthly newsletter that we launched on December 1st, 2010, entitled The First, because it's the first of its kind and is sent out the first, well, mostly the first of every month. I know. It contains regional news, updates, book launches, job opening, and the widely successful forum, a monthly op-ed piece that comes from each of the 5 continents. These forum pieces are now archived and are frequently cited in contemporary research. And they are facilitated by 5 faithful editors: Pablo Blanco, Agnes Brazal, Julie Clegg, Mary Gioiozio, and Peter Knox. Each has a team of 5 contributors. Could I ask, not only the 5 whose names I mentioned, who are all here, could I ask these 5 forum editors and their 25 contributing writers to please stand? Third, we decided to launch a book series. Working with Orbis Books, a planning committee member co-edited with another ethicist from another continent a volume that effectively invited 25 different contributors from around the world. I edited the first volume, the plenary papers, that were also published in Argentina, in Bangalore, and Manila. Linda Hogan and Agabonka Miege Arobator edited the next on feminism in 2014. Christiana Peppard and Andrea Vicini on just sustainability in 2015. Agnes Brazal and M.T. Davila on migration in 2016. In 2017, Orbis published the volume on biblical ethics, edited by the late Lucas Chan and Ronaldo Zacharias. And in this conference, we launched the 6th volume by Antonio Otiedo and Laurenti Magesa on the theological ethicist in the local church. Finally, I'm happy to announce that we have a 7th volume that will come out next year on street homelessness. There are over 165 contributors to these 7 volumes. Could I ask the editors, and again, the contributors to any of these volumes to please stand? There's a hefty number of you. I believe that this series has so affected theological and ethical research that when we write about ethics today, we think globally. We look beyond our localities and try not to be dominated by the northern paradigm. I would also like to thank our former editor, Jim Keene, who is here representing America Magazine, and our new editor, Jill O'Brien, who is selling our books here at the conference. Finally, Shaji George Kochatora had also started a CTEWC ethics series at Damaran in Bangalore, where he published the papers from Bangalore, as well as a Lucas Chan reader, again, both on sale here. Finally, before holding another major international conference, we decided to meet regionally, reflecting on an initiative by Agnes Brazal, who invited moralists across Southeast Asia to Manila in 2008. We decided to host continental conferences. In Nairobi, Agabonka Miege Arobator hosted us in 2012. the first Pan-African meeting of moralists. For Europe, we realized the need to do bridge building between Western and Eastern Europe. And so in 2013, Antonio Ottiero hosted a meeting in Berlin. And in 2014, Roman Globokar and Konrad Globik hosted one in Krakow. These first 4 regional conferences hovered basically with about 40 to 50 participants. For 3 years, Lucas Chan began planning with Shaji George Kochutora a Pan-Asian conference for more than 100 theological ethicists. And though sadly Lucas died of a heart attack on its eve in summer 2015, Shaji made sure that Lucas's spirit was very much with us in Bangalore. Finally, in 2016, M.T. Davila, Maria Gil Espinosa, and Alberto Munera hosted another large regional conference in Bogota. Whenever you enter this auditorium these days, before a plenary session or at the end, you will see on the screen photos of each of these conferences going across the screen to just remind you not only of Trent, not only of Padua, but of Nairobi, of Berlin, of Krakow, of Bangalore, of Bogota. Having held these conferences, it was time to call a third international conference. And so with the immeasurable help of Father Darko Tomasevic, we decided on Sarajevo. We have chosen a site that is neither the industrialized world nor the global south, but instead we believe it can bridge both. In the wake of its historic siege from 1992 to 1995, Sarajevo today offers us 3 vital contexts: peace building in the aftermath of ethnic conflict, interreligious and cross-cultural dialogue in a predominantly Muslim city, 85% to 90%, and economic struggle with 40% unemployment. We invited you here to work together, making our network more effective to address 3 compelling issues: the climate crisis, its impact on already marginalized populations, and the tragic and pathetic banality of contemporary political leadership. We come here with a very vibrant, active network, as my shout-outs and our applause has demonstrated. Here, there are no bystanders. We are here today because, as Elma said, as ethicists, we need to be engaged. In a world where nationalistic popularism tears apart any global cooperation, where the abandonment of the Paris Accord mirrors the abandonment of migrants and refugees, where civility is sacrificed by the banality of self-interest and the common good is trampled underfoot, we need to be globally connected and active, abandoning the domination of the global north and looking beyond local interest. We need to keep growing. We need to deepen our network to make it more effective and more responsive to a world and church in dire need. We have the capacity, the resources, and the commitment to do that. Linda, could I invite you to join me here on the stage? As we begin this conference, we come here with 16 years of experience, and so we are now entering into our 2nd generation. It is time, therefore, for expanding our leadership, for moving forward together where generations succeed each other. For this reason, we begin this conference with offering you new leadership for CTEWC. And in order to do that, Linda Hogan and I are both stepping down right here, right now, as chairs of CTEWC. I take that to be irony. Linda will speak to us on Sunday evening as the conference's very last plenary speaker. As you can see, we have deliberately bookended this conference with me having the first word and Linda the last word. But she will not offer words of farewell, but rather words of commissioning, of summoning, of prophetically calling us to enter more deeply into the moment of kenosis before all of us. Lest you think, therefore, that we have ulterior motives for stepping down, rest assured, my cancer is behind me, my health is grace, and both Linda and I are deeply committed and will be working with CTEWC until the new leadership gets rid of us. For instance, I will be editing the papers from this conference, and then I'm editing the volume on street homelessness, besides overseeing a sociological study of the effectiveness of CTEWC that our donors want us to do. But I will not be a co-chair, nor will Linda. We have shepherded 2 international conferences and 6 regional ones. So we resign so that others may lead. And that new leadership should already be evident. Saji George Kochatora from India, Kristen Heyer from the United States, and Andrea Vicini from Italy. I have been working with Saji George Kochatora since 2004. He is a person of enormous creativity and modest power. He is indomitable, the most resilient person I know. I could tell you some funny stories, but that'll be at the reception. One day in Bangalore, in 2012, I introduced him to Lucas Chan so that they could plan together the Pan-Asian Conference for 2015. After they met, Lucas talked with extraordinary joy about Shaji's capabilities and vision, and then said to me, "Tomorrow morning, Shaji and I are meeting for 3 hours to lay the foundation of our conference. You can come to our meeting, but only if you sit against the wall, stay quiet, and let us talk." Lucas was being playful, but that next morning, I learned how important it was to hand over CTEWC. Working with Saji in Bangalore in both 2012 and again in 2015, I knew that he had to become one of the new leaders. At Bangalore in 2015, Linda and I invited Kristen Heyer to join us as co-chair of CTEWC. Later, we asked her to co-chair the conference by designing the program for Sarajevo 2018, a program that you can hear clearly is about bridge building, about deepening the network in a time of urgency. This wonderfully designed conference is a conference of interpersonal and social engagement, and it is Kristen's work. Then 2 years ago, we approached Andrea Vicini to also chair the conference by asking him to oversee all the invitations, registrations, visas, airline tickets, and housing for all the participants. He has done an enormous work of accompaniment with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. If you want to get a sense of his talent, commitment, and care, then look at the assignments of the 264 guests that we have in 3 different locations. It's a 5-page chart that has an economy matched by elegance, and it's a model of hospitality. For these last years, I have known that these 3, and Linda has as well, are our leaders for the 2nd generation of CTEWC. And today I give them you as assuredly one of my and Linda's better ideas. Now it's time for them to take the stage and shepherd from here on in the 3rd International Conference of CTEWC. Please join us here. You stay. Please, come around this side. Here today, we must start anew, afresh, mindful of the urgency, but even more mindful of the many talents that are here. Today, from this time on, we must grow, include, innovate, expand. In a word, go beyond ourselves. Welcome to Sarajevo 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, everyone. I'm just delighted to welcome you all to Sarajevo. I know I speak for my esteemed colleagues, Shaji and Andrea, when I say that we are honored to lead the 2nd generation of CTEWC. But I want to acknowledge your surprise at the news. From the outset, this was planned as a conference of action, and Jim and Linda have felt that it is time to expand the network's leadership. So for those of you concerned, I share your concern. And we've known about this for weeks. But I also want to assure you that we are up for the exciting challenge of helping steward CTEWC's ongoing work. Jim and Linda, it has been an immense gift to collaborate with you both over the years, and we are grateful for your tremendous legacy and your trust alike. It helps to know that we are not alone in this, joined not only by your continuing work with us, but also by our other planning committee colleagues, and in fact, all of you. Encounters with so many of you at regional conferences and on the pages of our books have transformed not only my understanding of the field, but also my sense of vocation in the world church. We have also been heartened by your generosity of spirit in advance of this gathering. So for now, I would like to offer a few words about the conference program, which has truly been a collaborative effort, from mapping its themes down the street about a year ago through the mounting of countless posters earlier this afternoon. The weekend unfolds in 3 movements. First, interpersonal encounter. Second, our response to global crises. And third, networked action. We gather to respond together to urgent crises facing our international community and planet, evident in climate refugees and detained children, in populist uprisings and fractured alliances. The conference program is designed to anchor our reflections in our personal and regional realities. Following this evening's introductions to our significant context in Sarajevo, Day 1 invites us to encounter one another as persons through testimony, ritual, and conversation about why we do what we do. Before taking up one another's ideas about how to respond to key questions before us, we want to engage more deeply on an interpersonal level. We begin tomorrow from this point of departure with reflections on how and why we network, and then continental reports from the field, highlighting each region's characteristic methodologies. We have an opportunity to learn about what drives the impressive work of Youth for Peace here in Sarajevo. We visit a dynamic array of posters upstairs, conveying the commitments that orient the trajectories of your work, from political virtues to theologies of resistance. This first movement of personal encounter includes, as Jim said, a memorial to honor our members who have died, and a reflection service inviting prayerful responses to our violent and broken world. Day 2 takes up the moral challenges confronting us today, with special attention to climate and political crises. Charles Curran's plenary, offering resources from the tradition, will help us wrestle with the dilemmas raised by the other presentations throughout the day, from forces euthanizing democracy to intergenerational climate injustice to moral pluralism. Continental discussion groups will undertake an examination of conscience, considering how well we move beyond local or regional culture in response to such challenges. Saturday's final plenary invites us to move from purely academic reflection to active responses in the arena of public discourse, including a hands-on media training. We conclude Day 2 with liturgy at Sarajevo's Cathedral downtown, concelebrated by Cardinal Vinko Pulic, our host here, and Cardinal Blaise Supich of Chicago. Hence, academic analysis, public discourse, and communal worship comprise key elements of our response to today's urgent crises. Our final day invites us to move forward together in a spirit of engaged solidarity and action. Our plenaries take up themes of dialogue and reconciliation, imperative tasks in light of Sarajevo's history, as well as divisive forces in our own communities of origin, and then best practices from those of you among us who are already effectively networking for social impact around the world. Your concurrent papers highlighting fresh approaches, whether paradigm shifts or lessons from community organizing, further launch us forward in a mode of proactive, strategic response. We shall receive a prophetic summons from Pablo Blanco, Emmanuel Katungale, and Linda Hogan at our closing plenary. Many of you recognize it would not be a CTEWC gathering without continuing the conversation over a festive final meal together. So we will return here Sunday to share a banquet featuring an address by Cardinal Peter Turkson, Prefect of the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development. So the program aims to provide a more global and integrated appreciation of the moral questions confronting us today. How climate change in the Amazon relates to farmer suicides in rural India, for example, and to fuel our ongoing work to transform structures of thought and practice that block justice for those most marginalized. You may have noticed that we repeated no plenary speakers from Padua or Trento on the program, seeking to learn from new voices among us. All told, our 100 concurrent paper sessions are evenly distributed across the 5 continental regions, and our 120 or so poster presentations, the presenters among you were willing to risk a different medium to offer us a window into your work. So in the face of sobering signs of the times, may we collectively imagine new possibilities for pursuing theological ethics beyond the well-paved paths in our disciplines and our settings. In addition to yielding valuable written proceedings, may our time together animate relationships that help us accompany one another forward in a spirit of lived faith and bold mercy. In the city of struggle and of bridges, may we pave new paths forward together. Thank you.
Joy and gratitude are in my heart. It is a privilege being here together with each one of you in this unique city in our challenging times for our important conference. It is a great responsibility to join Christine Heyer and Saji Kochuthara in continuing the networking of Catholic theological ethics in the World Church. It is daunting to follow the steps of my dear friends James Keenan and Linda Hogan as co-chairs. It is consoling that with Jim and Linda and the members of the current planning committee, we will continue to work together to promote our networking across the world in this time of urgent need. We are here today because of the work of many among us. Their discreet and faithful dedication deserves our praise. We will continue to express our gratitude to them during these days. Briefly, I want to give a snapshot of three things. First, who we are here today. Second, where we come from. And third, what helped us to be here in Sarajevo. Who we are. We are 421 colleagues, 140 women, and 281 men. Here in Sarajevo, for the first time, 1/3 of the participants are women. Among us, 71 are junior scholars, more than 16% of the participants. They graduated not earlier than 2011. 29 of these young scholars are women, and more than 40% of them are women. And of those 29 women, 19 are from the Global South. "48 among us are doctoral students. 11% of all the participants here are doctoral students. 18 of them are women, and half of these women are from the Global South. Here with us are, for the first time, 2 Indian recipients of the Lucas Chan Scholarship offered by Catholic Theological Ethics in the World Church. Sister Mariamma Augustine and Father Gijo, one of the 2 Indian warm faces who welcome you at the airport. Can I ask the 2 of you to stand, please? Eight people among us are helping us to translate in English, French, Spanish, and Italian. Their voices will become familiar to you. Please express to them your gratitude for their work. If we sum the junior scholars, the doctoral students, and the translators, 127 participants, the 30% are the young generation in our midst. Of the 140 women present, 118 are lay women, 84%, and 22 are religious sisters, 16%. Among the 282 men, 147 are lay men, and 135 are ordained men, almost 50-50. The ordained men comprise 35 diocesan priests, 3 cardinals, and 97 religious men. Among them we find Jesuits, Dominicans, Redemptorists, Franciscans, Salesians, Camilians, Carmelites of Mary Immaculate, Verbites, Servites, and a few more religious congregations. I didn't want to give the whole list, just a short idea of who we are. Second, where do we come from? We come from all 5 continents. 78 countries are represented. If we think that there are 195 countries in the world, 40% of the countries in the world are represented here today. If we look at Global North and Global South, Global North we consider Australia, Israel, Japan, West Europe, and the United States. 19 countries with 169 participants. If we look at the Global South, all the other countries, 59 countries with 253 participants from the Global South are here in Sarajevo. To say it differently, we are very pleased that for the first time, the countries and the colleagues from the Global South are the majority of the participants. It is worth repeating. Here in Sarajevo, over 75 of the countries and 60% of the participants are from the Global South. Both Africa and Asia are represented by 16 countries each. 52 participants are from Africa, including those who work and study in other countries. Of them, 15 of these participants are women, 28%. We can remember that at our conference in Padua, only 3 African women were present. And because of the commitment of Catholic Theological Ethics in the World Church, as Jim already indicated, helping women to pursue doctoral studies, 5 of these women who were supported by Catholic Theological Ethics in the World Church are here today. Medjisi Sebunya, Sister Wilhelmina Tunu Mruma, Sister Ojo Antonia Bolanle, Sister Anne Acheng, and Sister Maria Rosendimbo. Can I ask you to stand, please? Seventy-nine participants are from Asia, and of them, 16 are women, 21%. 11 participants are from Oceania. We call it the Asian region, so 90 participants from Asia, counting properly Asia and Oceania, are part of this regional group. Central America, the Caribbean, and South America list 17 countries and 73 participants. Eastern Europe, Central Europe, and the Balkans count 10 countries and 46 participants. 14 countries and 70 participants are from West Europe. And finally, 85 participants are from the United States. To them, we need to add 18 more who are from other countries but who are working or studying there. Third, and finally, how we help many of you to be here. First, the visas. With the help of Thea Wuglik, who has been an invaluable help here in Sarajevo, and the collaboration of the Bosnian Foreign Ministry, we applied for over 100 visas, Bosnian visas. All the visas were granted. Half of the African colleague had to apply to the Bosnian embassy in Cairo, and half to the Bosnian embassy in Istanbul, Turkey. For all the Indians, the Bosnian visas were granted by the embassy in New Delhi. And finally, the other Asian colleagues applied to the Bosnian embassy in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. CTEWC requested and sent 85 personalized letters from the Faculty of Theology in Sarajevo to facilitate your arrival here. Almost 50 of you applied for Schengen visas and obtained them, and a dozen used the American visa. Can I ask Thea to stand to acknowledge all your work that you did for our gathering? Second, flights. We paid tickets for 230 of you to sponsor your participation from the Global South. We contributed part of the traveling expenses of a few doctoral students, and others were able to find funding from their own institution, and we are very grateful for this. Finally, housing. We are providing housing, as Jim said, for over 260 colleagues. 60% of the participants are taking advantage of our housing. Just about each of you is with a roommate. I hope you settled in comfortably with your roommates. And finally, this has been possible because of committed and generous donors. Our donors are listed at the end of the program. I want to thank in particular Jim Keenan and Antonio Otiero for their exceptional work in finding support for our conference here in Sarajevo. I look forward to our work together during these days and in the future. In our world today, many people of goodwill need our engagement, our passion, and our courage.
Dear friends, at the very outset, let me thank Jim and Linda and the planning committee and all of you for the great trust in us. So I say these words on behalf of Christine and Andrea as well. We are living in a globalized world, a world connected by the communication networks, by the movement of people, by the market. Anything that happens in any part of the world affects anyone who lives in any other part of the world. The world has become a global village. More than ever, we are aware of our interconnectedness. At the same time, we also find that the world is torn apart by war, terrorism, violence, conflicts between religions and cultures. Monolithic culture proposed by globalization threatens many cultures and religions. Profit-driven neoliberal economy and market has widened the gap between the poor and the rich. Unbridled exploitation of natural resources is threatening the very existence of the earth. Thus, although we speak about an interconnected world, we also find tendencies of building walls and breaking bridges. People are more and more divided by politics, religion, culture, ethnicity, and so on. Millions of people have become migrants and refugees. The political leadership seems to be ineffective in resolving such conflicts. The age-old North-South, East-West divide and conflict is taking place again. North and South, East and West, in a way, are geographical entities, but they also represent socio-cultural and economic realities. In general, North is considered economically affluent, whereas South is considered poor. West would be identified with monoculture and religion, whereas the East represents plurality of religions and cultures. Today, we find that the conflict between the rich and the poor, between cultures and religions, has intensified. To a certain extent, this conflict is geographically defined. However, we can find that geographical divisions are blurred today, with economic inequality on the rise. In the North, we find increasing number of poor. Similarly, Eastern cultures and religions are a lived reality in the West, and the Western culture has become influential in the East. Hence, dialogue between the poor and the rich, between cultures, between religions, has become an urgent need of all. What can we ethicists do to promote such a dialogue? How can we network to break walls and build bridges? From the beginning, Catholic ethics in the World Church, under the leadership of Jim Keenan, has been promoting such a dialogue as a mission of the ethicists. Through international conferences, regional conferences, regular publication of the first with a truly international character, and through the book series, CTEWC has been building bridges. It is our mission today to take this forward. Dialogue is our mission. We depend upon each other. Differences are not threats, but means of enrichment. We can continue to exist only if we exist for each other. We realize more profoundly that our mission as ethicists is to build bridges between the poor and the rich, between cultures, between religions, so as to exist together in peace and harmony, to care for our common home, to learn from each other and be enriched by each other. Let us take this mission forward. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Linda, and the members of the planning committee, and thank you all.
We have invited two local prominent scholars, one Catholic and one Muslim, to ground the conference in our context here in Sarajevo as a way to orient our time together. We are grateful to our opening speakers, Darko Tomašević and Zilka Šiljak, for their reflections on the relevant history of Sarajevo and its future in light of their work and experiences. Darko Tomašević serves as Dean of Catholic Theological Faculty here at the University of Sarajevo and was appointed the Canon of the Sarajevo Cathedral in 2012. A native of Vidovice here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, he began theological study in Sarajevo in 1991, and from 92 until 96, continued his study in Bol in Croatia, because of the war here in Sarajevo. He completed postgraduate studies in Rome at the Pontifical Biblical Institute in Sacred Scripture and received his doctoral degree in biblical theology from the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas in 2005. He has taught New Testament and Greek courses here on the Catholic Theological Faculty since then. Silka Shilyak holds a PhD in gender studies, and her work addresses cutting-edge issues involving human rights, politics, religion, education, and peace building. She brings more than 15 years' experience in academic teaching and work in governmental and non-governmental sectors. She runs TPO Foundation Sarajevo and teaches at several universities in Bosnia and Herzegovina and abroad. As a postdoctoral research fellow at Harvard University, she published Shining Humanity, Life Stories of Women Peace Builders in Bosnia and Herzegovina in 2014. Her earlier books include Contesting Female, Feminist, and Muslim Identities, Post-Socialist Context of Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kosovo, and Women, Religion, and Politics. Her current research at Stanford University focuses on intersections of leadership, gender, and politics. And I'm going to begin the rule of Sarajevo and grab the signs to encourage 15-minute presentations by our esteemed guests. Please join me in thanking them.
I welcome you. You can hear me? Yes, now you can. Okay. I was wondering and I was thinking what to do and how to present to you because most of you are mostly for the first time here in Sarajevo and most of you heard about Bosnia but about the situation you probably didn't hear and therefore I decided to a little bit present history special of the Catholic Church here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Okay, so the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, it's just a short power presentation. The war in Bosnia and Herzegovina from 1992 to 1995 made a great impact on every level of life here. Great number of people who fled during and after the war did not return. So this is a short presentation of the suffering of the Catholic Church in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So the Catholic Church and Catholics were, of course, not the only ones who suffered in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but I'm presenting these facts because I do have exact facts, and when you look at the percentage, Catholics suffered the most during the war. But again, I want to stress that two other religious communities also suffered a lot. We do have four actually dioceses in Bosnia. First is Archdiocese of Vrbosna in Sarajevo. The Archdiocese of Vrbosna, or Sarajevo, is geographically the biggest diocese in Bosnia, in BH. It covers central and northern part of BH and has its seat in Sarajevo. It has 153 parishes and 2 expositors. The Archdiocese today is situated in 2 parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina. The one part is Federation and the second part is the Republic of Srpska. In Federation, the Bosniaks or Muslims are majority. In that central and southern part, there are 114 parishes and 8 of them are in Brčko district. In the second part is the Republic of Srpska, where Serbs are the majority. In that part, there are 33 parishes. Now just comparison, because as I mentioned, 1991, the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina made a great impact here on every single level in life. In 1991, the Archdiocese of Vrbosna had more than 500,000 Catholics. In 2017, it's just 150, more than 150. So in other words, After the war, there were 70% less Catholics living in Archdiocese of Verbosna, Sarajevo. Oops, sorry. In 1991, on the territory of the Federation, there were more or less 800,000 Catholics, and now there are only 150,000. And the Republic of Srpska, there were almost 100,000, and now only more than 3,000. Is it? In district of Brčko, in 1991, there were almost 30,000 Catholics, and today around 5,000. And just as an illustration here, in 2017, only 171 persons were baptized, and more than 3,000 persons died. I'm telling the facts only about the Catholics, the Catholic Church. So during the war, also, the priests and the nuns suffered. 3 priests, I don't know, it's 3 priests and 1 nun were killed. And also, during and after the war, there were 690 churches and church objects destroyed. 290 were destroyed by Bosniak forces and 400 by Serb forces. And luckily, almost all of those churches and church objects have been restored and renovated. Just a few pictures about the churches during the war and after the war. One of them is this Borovica church. Diocese of Banja Luka, short presentation. In the Diocese of Banja Luka, in 1991 lived almost 100,000 Catholics, and now just 30,000. In other words, 68% less Catholics are living there. And in Federation in 1991, there were almost 40,000 living Catholics, and in 2017, almost 25,000. In Republic of Srpska, in 1991, there were living almost 60,000 Catholics, and in 2017, only more than 4,000. During and after the war, in the Diocese of Banja Luka, 6 priests and 1 nun were killed. And during the war, there were 204 churches and church objects destroyed, 1 by Bosniak forces and the remainder by Serb forces. And also, almost all of the today churches are restored and rebuilt. A few pictures, Jajce, before and now under reconstruction. In Diocese of Mostar, Duvno, is the southern part of Bosnia and Herzegovina. In 1991, there were almost 170 Catholics living there, and now in 2017, 2,000 more. Why? Because many Catholic refugees from Bosnia settled now in the southern part of Bosnia. During the war, there were also 106 churches and church objects destroyed or damaged, 3 by Bosniak forces and 103 by Serb forces. And all of them are now restored. Is it? Okay, one picture of church in Nevesnje, how it looked like, and now how does it look like today. And the smallest diocese is Trebinje Mrkanj. The diocese that in 1991 had 15,000 Catholics, and in 2017, 18,000. Because of the refugees from Bosnia, they do have more Catholics living there. One of the churches, Aladenici, before and now. Despite all of those facts, so we do have new perspectives here. First of all, as a church, we want to invest in children and youth. Therefore, there are 13 Catholic kindergartens and 7 school centers, so-called schools for Europe, as this one that we are now at. And in 2017-18, there were almost 5,000 children enrolled in those schools, not just Catholics, but also the Bosniaks, Serbs, and the others. And almost 15,000 children graduated from those schools, and we are very proud of it. There are almost 600 teachers in those schools with different ethnic groups, not just Catholics, but also the others. This is the school that we are now at: Sarajevo, Banja Luka, Tuzla, Zenica, Bihać, Žepče. Just a number of Catholics shortly. So in 1991, you had almost more than 800,000, and today you have less than 400,000. In Republic of Srpska in 1991, 150,000, now less than 10,000. In Brčko district, less than 30,000, now 5,000. Federation, 600,000, now less than 400,000. Compared to 2014, there are almost 50,000 less Catholics living in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And compared to 2006, there are almost 90,000 less Catholics living in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now you can see how the Bosnia and Herzegovina is structured. You do have part of the Republic of Srpska, and you do have the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So you do have some of the numbers that I just mentioned. How does it look like? We are getting close, not just 5 minutes, I don't need less than that. So, in 2010, you see, in 2010, there were like around 400,000 Catholics. In 1991, almost 800,000, and today is again less than 400,000. Number of Catholics in 2017 is smaller than 100 years ago. In 2013, almost 500,000, and now 370. This is just how it looked like, the ethnic map in Bosnia and Herzegovina, with the green Bosniaks, Muslims, blue Serbs, Orthodox, and red Croat Catholics. This is how does it look like now, also more or less similar, but changed a little bit. Even though it seems and looks pessimistic, there is hope. There are many other bright lights and initiatives that we as a Catholic Church and citizens are supporting to improve presence and make better future. Let me name just a few. Interreligious Council, established in 1997, just 2 years after the war, where main religious leaders promote peace based on religious principles. I want to stress that 2 years after the war, it took almost 20 years among the Catholic bishops in Germany and Poland to get together and to work together. In Bosnia, just 2 years. Youth for Peace that we heard about at the beginning, the greeting, and we are going to hear about them later on. And then Interreligious Studies and Peace Building. That's the Joint Master Program that started in 2017-18. The Joint Master Program of Interreligious Studies and Peace Building is organized by 3 theological faculties from Bosnia and Herzegovina in partnership with the Catholic Relief Services here in Sarajevo. And so those are 3 faculties. The fact is that the school system in Bosnia and Herzegovina is divided, and this is the first time that universities from Federation and Republic of Srpska are conducting a joint master program. The program is interdisciplinary and covers the field of interreligious studies and peace building. Joint study programs offer a unique opportunity for a clear positioning of religion as a source and catalyst of peace and for the shaping of religious institutions as advocates of a more just and better society. Just to inform you, a summer school program for foreign students in English is planned for the next year, and the flyer of this program you can find at the book tables right there. These are just a few of our initiatives. In the light of this conference, I want to stress that we all have to build bridges. We who are living here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and you who are living abroad. That's a short presentation, and I hope that you just got a small idea how does it look like here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Sarajevo. I'm really honored to be here tonight with you, and I would like to thank Jim for extending his kind invitation. So my presentation is going to be more personal. So I'm going to talk about how to become a moral person and cultivate sacred moments with or without God. So I will tell you a bit about my peace-building story that has begun a long time ago in 1992 when I was a young student. Now you can count my age. I experienced 2 awakening moments during the war that shook everything I believed in, and that forced me to decide whether to stay in prison by war, violence, and fear, or to find a way out and rebuild my life and the lives of people around me. The first awakening moment happened in 1992 when the siege of Sarajevo began. I was about to graduate from the Islamic